Hey FCC, thanks for joining us for another one of our 3-minute devotionals. We're going to be continuing our series on Psalms 91 by taking a look at verses 3 and 4. And in these verses it tells us, "For he will rescue you from every trap, protect you from deadly disease. He will cover you with his feathers, he will shelter you with his wings. For his faithful promises are your armor and protection." And I love these verses and take so much encouragement from these verses, especially right now. In fact, verse 4 is something that my wife and I have hanging up on different walls all over our house. And when I read this verse, I like to take the time and imagine him covering me and sheltering me with his wings and getting to sit inside of those wings and see the feathers interlock together to keep me safe. And when I think of these interlocking feathers, something that comes to my mind is a military formation that the ancient Greeks used called the phalanx. With a phalanx, you have soldiers standing shoulder to shoulder. Each one holds a shield in their left hand. But the key to that shield is that it's not just protecting that soldier, it's protecting the person beside him too. Because the strength of the phalanx comes from it working as one body that's united with those interlocking shields to protect it from the enemy forces. And it reminds me of how important community is in our lives. In Ephesians 4, verses 3 and 4, it says to make every effort to keep yourselves united in the Spirit, binding yourselves together with peace, for there is one body and one Spirit, just as you have been called to one glorious hope for the future. And that glorious hope that we get to share in is that we get to spend eternity with God the Father. But it reminds us that we are one body that is united in the Spirit and bound together in peace. And then in Galatians 6:2, it reminds us to share in each other's burdens and in this way obey the law of Christ. I love how simply and beautifully Galatians puts that we're called to be there for one another, to hold our shields high so that we can protect the person beside us. But it doesn't just tell us to share in somebody else's burdens, it tells us to share in each other's burdens. It reminds us that as we're holding our shield, somebody else is holding their shield, protecting us. So as we get ready to wrap things up here today, I want to encourage everybody to find that kind of community in your life. And I know community looks different right now, because instead of getting together with a friend for a cup of coffee and a Bible study, instead right now it might look like calling that friend instead. Or it might be sending somebody a text and asking, "How can I pray for you today?" Or "What's the Lord been doing in your life lately?" But remember that we get to share each other's burdens, that we get to share our lives with somebody else too, because somebody else's shield is also covering us. Thanks again for joining me here today, and as always, I pray that you have a wonderful and a blessed day.